Well, I've started working on the trunk lid fit to the body, and Willie um, from the Buick Club told me to check to see how much lead I got in that corner, and it turns out I've got more than I had thought. So there's a chance I might be able to actually trim the lead away just enough to make that gap acceptable. And so I ground the paint off, the primer off, and we're going to take a look. Okay, unfortunately, there's hardly any lead left. There was just a little trace up here. This is metal, so I can't really grind it anymore. So I guess my alternative is to make a slight cut right here, trim that back, and then weld that seam back up. That's kind of where I'm at on this. So we're going to have to see how that goes. Okay, I was able to get in there and slot that out just where I marked it. And now what I want to do is I made a line here. I'll just trim that back. I'm going to work this metal back here, and then I'll have to put a little piece of filler in there, filler rod, fill that up, or cut a little strip to weld in there. And my trunk should fit the body. Alright, I made that small little filler piece to fit in there. I don't know if you can see it very well, kind of in the light, but I used the weld-through primer from Eastwood, soaked it through there. Obviously you can see where it all ran out, but blasted it both sides really good. There's quite a bit of body seam sealer in there, and I dug out as much as I could, and then I just blasted that weld-through primer in there, because I think there's a little opening underneath. I'll be able to shoot some primer in there when I'm done welding, but I just figured I'd put that in there if a couple areas I can't get at. So I'm waiting for that primer to dry, and I'm going to start tacking that piece in. I'm finishing up this radius on this body where the trunk lid goes, and I did have to add a little metal. That turned out to be a metal. It hit a little bit low there, and I got one more little bead to put there, and we'll grind that down and take a look, and we'll see how it turns out. Patch welded in there, and I did run into a little bit of lead up there in the corner and blew that out of there, but that's alright, we don't need that in there. I'll fill that up with a little body putty there. But I got the right shape, and I got the right gap. I need to do a little finish work on it yet, but it's going to be all steel around that edge. It's not going to be Bondo or lead or anything. So I just got to round that edge, get a nice little edge on that. And let me get the lid closed here. And you can see I got my gap back, and it's easier to make that gap a little bit narrower. I'll have to work on that little, it's a little wide there. I ran into some more lead over there and I ground it all out. So a thin skim of Bondo on there. You can see where I blew the lead out there. That's okay, I ain't gonna worry about that. But yeah, the gap's looking good. And I didn't have to grind away on that nice pristine trunk lid. So I got to do a little bit of work on the other side. I don't think it's going to be this intense as on this one, but it's about 3 hours work, and I'll get up in there and try to reprime that area behind there. Even though I used that weld through primer, I'll get something up in there to back that up. So a little more finish work, skim of putty and primer, and that corner will be done. I finished up the metal work, and I got a real thin skim coat of body filler on there, and I got a little trim work to do in the, but I got the shape, and I got all the little dips, nooks and crannies filled in. So a little bit more work, and it'll be ready for some primer. Well, I got all the body filler smoothed out, and got possibly a little bit more work down in that drain area there, but I'd have to have the trunk lid off to do a decent job on that. So my gap was looking pretty darn good here. All the way. So it's hard to really see it. Once I get some primer on it, it'll look be a little more obvious, but that's kind of what I was looking for. So we'll get a little bit of primer on that and to seal that all up, and then I'll move to the next section I need to work on. Okay, I got all the body filler rough sanded out, and I got a couple of coats of epoxy primer on there, and it's looking pretty good. It's ready now for some primer surfacer, and I'll be able to do some block sanding, but I got my lines looking pretty darn good here. It's not perfect, but at least it's presentable now. It's not touching there in the middle like it was, so I can move on to other areas of the trunk lid and get that thing to fit right.